This is Saturday Morning Mysteries.
And we're your hosts, Alexis and Grace. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Mysteries, hosted by Alexis, yours truly, and Grace,
Hi.
hers truly.
That's me. Truly.
Oh.
Truly, that's me.
Truly you, not the
Yes.
drink, just the human Grace.
Is that a drink?
Truly is a drink. It's a.
Oh.
I think it's alcohol.
Oh.
It's not good. It's like the seltzer stuff.
Oh.
Anyway,
Trash.
doesn't matter. Has nothing to do with our objective today, which is to talk about classic animated shows and put them to true crime format.
Yeah, we're super excited that y'all are back. You didn't abandon us after the first 2 episodes. We appreciate you for that.
I almost abandoned us after those episodes. I'm joking. No,
Yeah.
I got even more excited.
We cut out the part in the middle of the episodes where Berg was like, I'm out of here. My rider was not met. Where are my red only M&Ms? I am done with this shit. And then she left. I had to fly to DC, get her back. Like, it was a whole thing.
It was.
We recorded the whole time.
My agents were not pleased with the way that the meetings went down, but they allowed it. They were like, you know what, Grace, you drive a hard bargain. So everything's a go.
They were
like, on, baby, we're back in business.
She's crying so much. Please, Bird. Please, Alexis, go back to her. She won't stop crying in our office.
I couldn't stand to see Grace cry like that. I was like, fine. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's an ugly cry, but it's not pretty. In exciting news, we now have social media. Which maybe we'll go back and edit the first 2 to say that we have social media, but we now have social media accounts now.
As of this recording, we do.
Yes, exactly. So Twitter and Instagram, give us a follow. Satmorn Mist, shortened all of the things.
All of the things,
yeah.
All the abbreves of our name.
Yeah, so like go check that out. Give it a follow. Wherever you decide. We don't have Facebook, because I don't have Facebook and it sucks. So
yeah,
we're not
gonna get any traffic on Facebook.
Yeah,
you see their stock earnings are way down, or at least they're so maybe it's a good time to not start a Facebook profile. Zuckerberg's actually like, no, please start a Facebook profile.
Please, someone
anyway.
Oh, sorry, Meta. My bad.
Meta. Oh god. Jesus, we can't even get it right. More reasons why we won't have a Facebook page, because we don't even know who owns them anymore.
Truly, this video is probably gonna get taken down because they're gonna flag that we just shit talked in. They're gonna come like SWAT team into our homes. The metaverse.
I'm like looking out of my window now for helicopters. They may be approaching. Anyway,
moving on. So we're continuing Scooby-Doo today, and we're just gonna launch right in. As you saw, we're going back and forth with our episodes, so I'm back on track for today, unless you have any other business or things you needed to flag before we get started.
I don't think so. I'm ready to hear some Scooby. I'm ready to hear what adventure, what mystery they solved today.
Great. So I'm still on Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Reminder.
Wonderful.
The OG of them all. I popped forward to season 2. There's only 2 seasons of it. So I guess last season of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? But started off with the first episode of season 2, which is Nowhere to Hide.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we're going to get into it. I mentioned it briefly to Bird, this episode I did, and I thought she had done it, but she just remembers it loosely, perhaps.
Loosely. I'm gonna guess how Hyde is spelt. Well,
tell me.
I'm gonna guess it's spelled Hyde rather than Hide. But hey, I don't know if this episode is going to live up to my expectations of what I remember it to be. We'll see.
Well, I'll just launch right into it because it's the first thing I talk about. We're gonna go with Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Season 2, episode 1, entitled Nowhere to Hide. Once again, a pun. Yes. HYDE, a la Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is,
Wonderful.
Showing the very cultured and worldly and refined world of Scooby-Doo with this classic literature reference.
They're like, we read books.
Yeah. We know how to read here at Scooby-Doo, at Hanna-Barbera. It's a requirement.
I guess actually probably.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe the animators don't have to. They're just animating, but probably be helpful to do that. So, which, if you don't get what we're talking about at all by saying that this is a reference to something, we're going to get into that briefly before we get into our episode, just in case we don't want to assume, because I've actually never read what it's referencing.
Yeah. We act like we know exactly what they're talking about, but in reality.
Yeah, we just know
we all know though, like the lore or the history of these characters that the book is based off of, or the book is about. But
well, I'm gonna tell you either way because I Wikipedia'd it. So
you practically read it.
Yeah, I mean, I did read. Wikipedia fully goes into like spoiler central. It's not like a synopsis. It's fully, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens. Yes, it's very useful. It's
modern
like
day Spark Notes.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yes. It's almost like we went to school together and studied together.
Also,
weird.
Deep pro tip: if you've never looked at the Spark Notes Instagram, it is the funniest fucking thing in the world.
I did not know they had an Instagram. I am going to give them a follow as soon as we're done recording them.
It's just literature memes. Like it's by far, it's the only social media I essentially care about.
Oh God.
Yeah. There's a couple more that I'm sure I'll mention in some various fashions. But yeah, that one's worth a follow.
But as of right now, that one.
Spark Notes.
That's the only
Shout
one.
out to them. Okay, so this is a reference, the Nowhere to Hide reference to Scottish author Robert Louis Stevenson's 1886 work, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So this is a novel of an experimental doctor, Dr. Jekyll, who wanted to get up to some mischief in order to indulge in his vices, which in 1886 I thought would be like jaywalking, seeing a woman's ankles, very scandalous. So he created this potion serum thing that transformed his physical appearance and took away his inhibitions so he can get up to those naughty tasks without anyone realizing it's him. So instead of putting on a disguise, he just changed his whole form with science, I guess. I guess if I read it, I would understand what happened. But anyways, this alternate personality, and kind of like separate person is known as Mr. Hyde. As these things go, Jekyll starts to transform himself more and more because he likes getting into that bad shit until he starts to transform without needing the serum. I guess Hyde straight up murders some people every now and then. So truly gets into some bad stuff. Dr. Jekyll at some point can't control the monster that he's become. He has to create a new serum that actually is changing him back into Dr. Jekyll because Hyde is taking over. Mr. Hyde's getting too strong. In the end, Dr. Jekyll kills himself so that he can also kill Hyde. So classic old tales, it's a lot darker than we turn into pop culture. So yeah, right. I guess
you hear that reference Jekyll and Hyde and cartoons and songs just everywhere. And then you learn the story. You're like, that's super dark and depressing. And I feel like that's kind of been readapted in so many films too, not specifically as Jekyll and Hyde, but kind of like how the star-crossed lovers trope is done over and over again. It's that whole internal monster coming out at night. Interesting. I may or may not read that book now.
No, you won't.
But I want to. I want to say that I did. If there's a movie, I'll for sure watch the movie.
I'll for sure hear what you decide to do.
I will tell you, and that will be your reading or watching of the movie / book.
I already read the Wikipedia and watched the Scooby-Doo episode. So
you practically wrote the original work.
Oh, you didn't know it was a Scottish author from the 1800s? Yeah, that's my whole thing. Okay, I promise that this is all relevant information. So let's get into this one. Our favorite cast of heroes, again, Mystery Inc. We've got Scooby, Shaggy, Velma, Daphne, Fred. They're driving home after their some milkshakes or snacks from their favorite malt shop in town. And they're, talking about things like the latest movies they've seen, which includes this one where this monster was waiting in the back of cars to surprise the victims, which Shaggy obviously hated. Velma basically thought it was cheesy and pedantic. So what do you think happens right after that? Right after they're talking in the Mystery Machine about how monsters hide in the back of cars and to pop out on people. Yes, your eye roll is correct.
That's right. If you're just listening to the podcast, I rolled my eyes. Like, I wonder. Yes. Yes. I believe someone or something is going to pop out at them.
Correct. This monster, or at least a stranger who is hiding back in the back of their van, waiting to surprise them. Scooby pulls a blanket off, and it's there.
God, that'd be terrifying. Sorry, that's the nightmare of most American women, but go on.
Yes, I will. We're going to get into that too. So I basically, if so Scooby pulls this blanket off, and there's this monster right there. And if this was the start of some star-crossed lovers rom-com, it would freeze frame on the monster who's played by Paul Rudd, and it would be I bet you're wondering how I got into this situation type of thing.
Cheesy music plays in the background. Oh yeah, my God.
Exactly. And rewinds to how he got into that situation
5 days earlier.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not that. Yeah, it's like you said, way too real of a situation, and is also it's one of my worst fears. Whenever I get into my car, I lock the doors immediately.
Yeah, triple lock,
yeah, and even when I'm leaving my car, lock immediately, check the doors, we've all heard those horror stories of a parking garage situation, and truly worst fear, way too real that Scooby-Doo casually put this in there. And I know the 70s were lawless, Mystery Machine is above the law, but Coolsville is full of crime, and they didn't block their cars. They weren't worried about a carjacking or this.
Just someone robbing the stuff out of the van. I mean, it's a big, nice van that clearly has things in the back of it. So at a minimum, if someone's not going to jack your whole van, they're going to jack the stuff that's in the back of it.
Exactly. So yeah. All right. Anyways, so let's backtrack to our Paul Rudd, not actually Paul Rudd, because it's not a rom-com.
I love Paul Rudd.
Right? Anyway. A classic. That's why I mentally went to him as my example right away.
I'm glad you did.
Can't go wrong with Paul Rudd. So yeah, how did this monster stranger guy thing end up in the back of a van? I do want to know, I don't really feel bad describing him as a monster. He's this a swamp man. He's got this sickly green skin and straight almost wet looking green matted down hair and this droopy long face going on. And saying monster feels very don't and judgy, because it's not a muddy swamp man type of thing. He's just
an unattractive human.
Yeah, he's I don't know, got gangrene or something because his skin's green. I don't know what.
He needs more vitamin C.
Yeah, there's something not healthy going on there. So earlier that night, while the gang was, munching on their malts in this crime-ridden town, this swamp man broke into the top floor of a building. I don't know if it was a museum or a collector's boutique or just a fancy shop. But wherever it was featuring a rare jewelry collection that's on display all behind glass. It says rare above all of it. It's fancy because the animation is very sparkly across this. And we zoom in on clearly the rarest and most fancy of them all, which is this giant ruby necklace that's on its own pedestal surrounded in glass. And clearly the piece de resistance of this collection. And the swamp man immediately, he's into that. That is what he's here for. So he gets in through this top floor window somehow, doesn't come in through the door. Yeah, he's scaled the
very
building.
Very athletic.
Extremely, especially over little swampy guy. Maybe it's sticky from all the mud or something.
True.
But either way, rolls in through the window, keys in on this ruby, just like, I don't know, like breaks the glass or like opens it. Like he's not worried about like causing a scene
or any alarm system or anything.
Not at all. Just like swipes it. We see him downscale the building itself, like descend the building, and he's just like on the side of the building, like a pro climber situation. And as soon as he like hits the ground, there happens to be a cop right there who shouts, "It's the Ghost of Hyde," and starts to chase him down. And this
Hyde is chasing the cop, or the cop is chasing.
Sorry. Yeah, the cop starts to chase Hyde, the Ghost of Hyde.
Gotcha. So this guy's been causing some trouble. The cops are already like, "Oh, we know you. Go get him." Gotcha. Okay.
Yes. So specifically, we can assume that, this is both from the cops' immediate reaction and later Velma and Daphne, when they finally see said monster or man, exclaim, and I directly quote, "He's that creepy jewelry thief who's been scaring everyone in town." So like he's got a reputation. I guess there's a lot of like jewelry stores in Coolsville and things. I mean, they've got a museum. We already know they've got a lot of safes that people have. Like this is a pretty rich town.
I was going to say, I'm starting to think only the wealthy live in downtown Coolsville.
Yeah. And that like immediately on the outskirts, it's only like dilapidated Victorian homes, because that's usually where we end up.
That have been moved from old construction sites in some cases.
Exactly. So again, he's on the run here. And everyone knows about these crimes happening in Coolsville. And again, the gang is just out with their car unlocked. Apparently they had just come from the school's magic show, by the way, which every time they insert something about them being in school and like teenagers, it throws me off for a second.
It kind of like messes up the plot a little bit. Like they're so not teenagers.
Yeah, like they went to the magic show, now they're getting malts. Like this, it's none of it makes sense. This is my biggest like issue with the show. We don't see them in school. Anyways, they always, as per usual, let the crime come to them. They don't go to the crime. They go to the mysteries though. So Swamp Man, must have been, on his run from the cop, like clearly wanted to find an easier getaway, wanted to find like a car to jack or to hide in to take him out of town. This Swamp Man is pretty speedy, so he gets away from the cop because conveniently for him, mystery van completely unlocked, and he just like gets into this like, essentially he's like windowless escape pod and just covers himself with a blanket and waits. Doubly convenient for Swamp Man is that Fred, on their way home from the malt shop, decides to take a quote unquote shortcut home. And they're all obviously, pardon me, like pissed about it. They're like, "Fred, this is creepy. We don't like driving."
The shortcut is taking us through like haunted houses, probably.
Yeah. And also like, didn't y'all grow up here? Like Fred would know the roads, and yet they're always on some accidentally.
They get like lost or something?
No, just maybe. I don't know. It's very unclear, but everyone's complaining about it. And Fred's like, "I got this, guys." And it's again convenient for Swamp Man because they're driving through like these marshy, again, creepy swamps that the Ghost of Hyde just happened to be trying to get to. So he like couldn't have picked a better car to stow away in, because probably no one was driving that direction.
Yeah. Wait, that's super lucky. Good timing.
Right?
Yeah.
I know. Good for him. And so once he's discovered, again, Scooby rips off this blanket. "Hi, Swamp Man. I'm here now. Thanks for the ride. Thanks for the free Uber." And what I'm learning is the gang's usual fashion. They just like throw the van in park and everybody just like leaves. They
scatter.
Full scatter. It's every man for themselves. Like they don't give a shit about the rest of like the team at all. They're not loyal. Like one for one, one for all. One for one only. The most
teenage thing about them. Like every man for himself.
Yeah. "I no longer care about you, only me." So where they happen to stop, like I said, is in this swampy marsh. Like everything is dark and overgrown and just like covered in mud. There's fog. And while all of them are scattering and finding a place to hide, they do see the Ghost of Hyde. Instead of like jacking their car, they see him run off deeper into the fog and deeper into the swamp and carrying this ruby necklace. So let's pause and ask the question that we'll ask every single episode. Is this where Mystery Inc. calls an authority? Maybe, I will say, it would be jumping to conclusions to assume that this creepy green man stole the ruby. Like, maybe he just has a nice necklace. Maybe he just purchased it from this collector.
But why would he be running with it?
Yeah, and like, he was a stowaway in your car, so like, you could at least report like, hey, I thought I was about to be kidnapped or like carjacked or like murdered.
Yeah. I'm a little broken into my car.
Yeah, like my car was broken into. Yeah, there's still a crime to be concerned about. But as always, the answer is obviously no. They don't. They do assume that necklace, which I will say, like, they kind of knew who the Ghost of Hyde was. They knew he was a jewelry thief, so maybe it's like not a huge jump that he stole that ruby. But he did indeed, or they did indeed decide to follow him into the darkness. As per usual, Freddy's suggestion, let's go get this jewelry thief. This
brave
is fine.
Man. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know the difference between a swamp and a marsh, and so I'm just going to call it both of them. I don't know what they could be the same thing. So I'm just going to act
I think
like
size and depth probably.
Yeah. Yeah, there's probably like a hydrological
but yeah, I'm
situation. We're not going to.
I am not an ecologist, so exactly. I do not know.
Yes. So pretty soon, as we actually just talked about, of course, they find a old dilapidated house in the middle of this swamp. It's very much, again, it's very confusing where Coolsville is actually located. It's kind of like Springfield in like The Simpsons, where like you don't know where in the US it is. Because now this house is like, I don't know, giving me like old like bayou type of vibe, especially that it's in like a swampy area.
Louisiana or deep Mississippi or something.
Exactly. Very deep Mississippi. Like also like it's definitely haunted and has a lot of ghost type of vibe. Also like this is a hazard to walk into. It could collapse on you at any second type of vibe.
All vibes that I do not like.
Yeah. Like all vibes that should give you pause. Okay, yeah. Maybe, like the old like cool bayou house, like, all right, yeah, like we can check that out, but like
the falling down on you part,
like as like a historical tour type of situation, not like we're just gonna find it and go into this like probably condemned home that no one's lived in for who knows how long. And I don't totally know what the gang's plan was. I think they were just gonna like march up to the door and ask for the ruby back, because they are like, the front door is locked. Let's go to the back. And so they just go around back to like knock on the door and like jiggle the like handle to see if it's open. And they assume that I guess he's in this house. The swamp man is in that house. And here I wanted to pause again, because if I was building or buying like a creepy house miles away from society in the middle of like a eerie swamp, like what would be on my like must-have list? Like when you're looking for an apartment as an adult, it's like a washer and dryer in unit. Or like when we were buying our houses, like a backyard is a must-have because we've got giant dogs. So I was kind of racking my brain of like, what are some of the like must-have things? Because I'm going to tell you, this house hits them all. It is the ideal creepy house in the middle of the woods. Dream
property in the swamp. Let's go.
Throughout this episode, I will just tell you how this is the home for you.
The home that just keeps giving.
Yes, exactly. Because this Victorian creepy spooky ass house has the biggest must-have, which is as they walk up to knock on the door, I don't know how the fuck they didn't notice it, because it's a giant wooden platform that they step on. Platform? I don't think so. Trapdoor.
Yes. Perfect for your on-the-go type of couple, suburban couple.
Yes. Unwanted visitors always coming around trying to like sell you some like dictionaries and encyclopedias. Trapdoor their asses. Bam. Dinner guests
and their dictionaries.
Dinner guests who overstay their welcome. Trapdoor their ass. It's a must-have. So again, the gang steps up to this back door. They try and like knock on the door, and this again giant piece of wood in the middle of the muddy swamp just like swings out from underneath them. I will say yes.
So where, you have a question. Sorry, you just said that, like, do they have to go like upstairs to get to the front door, or is it like ground level shack? Because I guess I'm imagining it like in the middle of the swamp water, so kind of like elevated or something. No, and I was like, wait, if there's a trap door, do they just like fall underneath right into the swamp?
No, I guess maybe that's like the marshy part. Like marsh is like, so like swamp, you think more of like the actual water part.
Yeah.
Like marshy, you think like it's kind of just muddy and like squishy. Okay. Yeah. So I guess this is the marsh portion of the swamp zone, biological zone and habitat. But no, yes, it's on the floor or like outdoors, which again would be a bigger indication that they went from like marsh to wooden platform than the door, but the wooden platform is the trap door. So yeah, it swings open. I will say this house, maybe like you should rework the layout a little bit, because like if you had a trapdoor, you'd want to like send the people into like, I don't know, like a dungeon or like an unfinished basement of some variety. But instead the gang nicely, I guess, falls onto a mattress. But there's a lot of like springs sticking out. So like definitely some like tetanus issues. Yeah. But you were up to nefarious things. You'd like want to hide the like nefarious things instead of dropping people into them.
Where they're like all out in the open.
Yes. So that's what happens is they drop in this trap door and it's in the middle of this like bubbling and like brewing chemistry lab. So yeah, they're just right into the middle of it essentially right away. So there's like vials and I know like beakers and small fires that are unwatched and unmanned, and like bubbling liquid or, test tubes full of like orange and green liquids and like.
So the lab's like in action too. It's not like the things are cleaned out. Like someone was literally just in there doing stuff.
Yeah, like someone went out to the bathroom mid-experiment and literally does happen to actually come back in to find a bunch of teenagers and a dog suddenly in like their office, essentially like in their lab. And this man who walks in is definitely the scientist we know, because he has like a Bill Nye the Science Guy like bow tie, thick glasses, and a white lab coat. So that indicates this is indeed the scientist here.
It's a scientist uniform.
Yeah, it's a must-have. Even in like he doesn't have a work from home outfit, he fully changes into his attire.
Can't get anything on that nice clothes. Got to wear that lab coat.
Exactly. So this guy is like this really tall. He kind of looks like Leonard Nimoy type of scientist. Again, like Bill Nye, he's like kind of lanky, and he has this like overt like I do science fit on. I will say like he does check on the kids and is like, "Are you guys okay? You just fell in my trap door." Also, like, what the fuck are you in my house right door?
Yeah, on both ends. I'm questioning both of these individuals or this group. Kids are wondering.
Yeah, he is concerned with like, "Are y'all okay? I just have this.
Why
are you
mattress. In my basement?"
Yeah,
it's like you have a trap door.
Yep, there's a lot of pointing fingers happening. And so he introduces himself. He's pretty polite as Dr. Jekyll. The gang, I know, another eye roll for you podcast listeners from birth.
Sorry, yeah, I need to announce my eye rolls.
And eye roll.
Eye roll.
So as the gang exclaims how happy they are that he's not the Ghost of Hyde who found them down there, Dr. Jekyll throws a curveball at them and he says, "I'm actually not sure that I'm not the Ghost of Hyde." Yep. So
it's a sign to run. Kid.
Yes, off to a bad start. This man is not sure if he is or is not the Ghost of Hyde. So he does a little bit of explaining to do. So he's a bit of like an experimental chemist who works to produce different vitamins and medicines. I got the vibe that like his concoctions were, too big, too forward thinking, too risque for an average pharmaceutical company to like have on their books and records. And that's essentially why he ended up at this like creepy old house, was like, he probably got like laid off or like quit in a rage that no one was like funding his genius work that would change everything. And so he was like, well, I can't just like do this shit in an apartment. I need an abandoned house somewhere. And so this was
In
probably
the
like,
swamp.
yeah, the only one on the market. And it just happened to be this like super booby trapped situation. So that was the sitch. And so, yeah, he took his experiments creepily off the record from any legitimate not that pharmaceutical companies are legitimate, I guess, or good. I mean, they're legitimate. They're not good, whatever. Yeah, we know how we feel about them.
Yeah.
But he knew that he had, like, he couldn't just give up on his experiments because the man told him that he couldn't, pursue them.
FDA is not going to slow me down.
I mean, we'll get to why. Yeah,
they will, but for better or worse,
they'll really slow you down when they throw you in jail. But anyways, so experimentation is in Dr. Jekyll's blood. We quickly learn that he's like the great grandson of the Dr. Jekyll of notorious fame.
Wow, and they passed the name down that many times.
Yes, yep. There was no out of marriage situation. Yeah. They just stacked
daughters. Yeah,
nope. Sons only
that.
In this family.
Yeah. All right.
Yes, I think it was in the Wikipedia page in the book somewhere. Only sons. And I guess that he also had sons before the actual Dr. Jekyll killed himself or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway. So this for our Dr. Jekyll right now is both a blessing and a curse. Like his great grandfather, the original Dr. Jekyll, our current day one is really worried that he's actually involuntarily morphing into Mr. Hyde. But at this point, it's the ghost of his great grandpa's ulterior ego and motive or personality, Mr. Hyde. Yeah. So essentially, it's kind of weird that Dr. Jekyll thinks this is happening, but doesn't know. And so he continues to go into why he thinks this is happening. It's not just I guess I'm Mr. Hyde now, like my grandpa was.
It must be me. There's sightings of him. I can't think of anything else.
Right. So the gang's a little sus at first, but he continues to explain. So this, he lays out his clues. So our modern day Dr. Jekyll had been working on this new vitamin formula and medicine, again, off the record here. And he thought that he had perfected it. So to double check, obviously, like a good scientist, you need to test it. You can't just throw shit together and assume it's good. And according to Google, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, was founded in 1906. So it was well established by 1970. But instead of going through, drug trials, Dr. Jekyll just YOLO'd it and tested the drug himself. He finished the experiment, was I've done it. I'm going to drink it now.
What better test subject than the person who made the thing being tested?
Yeah, I guess if you're not willing to do it on yourself, why would you have it done to other people or something?
Yeah,
I don't know.
And if you have any suspicions that it will kill you, then you might as well carry all of the knowledge of it to the grave with with the thing itself. So go ahead, test it on yourself.
Exactly. So the side effects are immediate for him. He gets dizzy, the tire rooming starts spinning, and he passes out. Okay. And according to him, or what he thinks at least by this kind of trial and error situation, is that actually testing this new drug kick-started something in his bloodline that had happened with his great-great-grandpa's experiments of how at some point his great-great-grandpa didn't even need the formula to be changing into Mr. Hyde. And so he thinks there was something triggered in their bloodline, because the next thing he knew, he was being shaken awake by his housekeeper, Helga, who found him passed out on the floor of his lab with his shoes covered in mud. So he has no recollection of leaving the lab or anything, but he wakes up and clearly he had been somewhere else. Yeah. We do eventually actually meet Helga. Right now, he's just telling us about her. But a little background, she is his housekeeper out there in the swamps with him. Thinks she's supposed to be a Swedish woman because she's super tall, blonde. Helga. But she has an American accent, a Midwestern, unidentifiable accent. So
maybe Minnesotan.
Yeah, a little Minnesotan over there. But yeah, so we'll eventually get to Helga, but that's a brief, she's there for Dr. Jekyll and she's are you okay? What happened? You missed dinner. What's going on here?
Why are you dragging this mud in the house?
Yeah, I just cleaned your nasty ass lab. Stop letting people in the trap door. They bring in mud too.
They're messy.
And a dog? No. Wipe his paws off. So when this happened again, Dr. Jekyll had no memory of it, of like, he just drank the medicine, got dizzy, passed out, he didn't even realize he passed out. He was just being woken up. And like that first night, this started happening without that like drug prompting. So it's been more than once now that he's just suddenly like gotten super dizzy, passed out, and then woken up in the same scenario. And when tonight he was woken up by Helga, he happened to have the ruby necklace in his hands, which immediately the gang is like, oh shit, like
super incriminating.
Yeah, like you've put your own clues together, and like this kind of checks out. But
mystery over.
We did it again. Good job, team. Everyone shakes hands, pat themselves on the back, front page of the paper.
Police, I suppose,
they've done it
for once.
And that's my story. The end. No. So this is where we get our first clue. Velma, who apparently, unlike us, is an ecologist and soilologist or something. She points out that the mud on Dr. Jekyll's shoes is dry. Even though
it's actually dirt.
I hate you so much.
And I'm done.
Oh my God.
So many people probably just unsubscribed.
I'm unsubscribing from our
I'm so sorry. Anyway.
All right. Yeah. It was a very Velma move of you right there to be like, oh, Dr. Jekyll, you actually have dirt on your shoes.
It's actually
now.
dirt. It's not mud. It's dry. Anyway.
Push up her glasses. My glasses. Yeah, there you go. Dr. Jekyll hadn't really noticed it. I think he was probably like, I just woke up from fucking being passed out. I don't know what's happening. And he's like, that is weird. And that's like illogical that this would be like, why would it be dirt? Alexis.
Please call it mud though, because it's mud makes it more exciting.
No, I'm mad
There's
about
nothing
it now.
fun. There's nothing fun about dirt.
But like then again, when does a person like transforming into an entirely different human being make logical sense? I don't know. So it's official. There's a mystery on their hands and this crime that they need to solve of like, are you indeed the jewel thief turning into Dr. or Mr. Hyde, the Ghost of Hyde, like you think? And you know, what would Coolsville be without an adult letting a bunch of minors just run in their home with no other supervision or awareness from their parents of where they are? Because that's exactly what happens. The gang is like, can we look around your house? And Dr. Jekyll is like, sure. I'm going to go like read in the parlor and like,
naturally, I'm going to go take a nap.
Yeah, exactly. Like have at it, kids. So we'll start upstairs because again, obviously it goes without saying the gang splits up. So Shaggy and Scooby get assigned the attic and they go up there right away. And here they immediately question like what the fuck Helga even does for a job, because this attic is like covered in cobwebs and dust. Like there's like bats flying out of like chests that they open. There's like little like clouds of dust as like they like sneeze in it, and like it clearly like is not going well. Like people have not come
it's
up
not
here.
Been kept up. Yeah.
No. Or
no
at least
one is
like
cleaning that room.
Yeah, like if anyone's going up there, they're not swiping any surfaces as they go.
Perhaps they're not coming back down.
Perhaps. And among all of these like chests and old closets, Shaggy and Scooby find like entire costumes within some of the chests. They remark that like someone must have been in showbiz or something, because it's like, you know, like clowns and like sailor costumes and like military gear and like a bunch of different costumes, an ape costume, all this stuff. So, you know, they of course try on costumes instead of looking for clues. But it's interrupted by finally the appearance of Helga, who's apparently ready to finally clean it up. She's just walks up there with a duster and like kind of lectures them. She's like, I just finished cleaning this and you guys are making a mess. And yeah, Shaggy and Scooby are like,
no, you did not, girl.
Like,
you did not just clean up here.
does like your boss not come up here? Because it is a freaking mess.
You don't have to lie to us. He's
Right.
not up here. You can tell us you don't clean this room for real. You're stealing money from him. We get it.
Yeah, it's fine, girl. He's crazy anyways, clearly.
Right.
So let's go downstairs now. So there it's Fred, Velma, Daphne. They're like rummaging through like the sitting room and living room and stuff. And this is quickly where they find clue number 2. So in the fireplace, there's some pretty like fresh like ashes and some like still like dimming embers. And there's a bunch of paper in there. And at first it like could be seen as like, yeah, they were just trying to like find other material to stoke the fire. Like finding dry wood in the middle of a swamp / marsh is probably challenging because it's always wet there. But they end up finding, they pull out a piece of paper, Fred does, that's not fully destroyed, but all of the edges of it are burnt. And again, it's like still pretty warm. Like the edges are still kind of like falling off. So like this was clearly recent. And what they find is an old newspaper clipping featuring a world famous acrobat and trapeze artist whose latest feat was an act that essentially was like flying between the buildings. And who made
literally flying or like tightrope type of?
The way Velma and Daphne were like, what is this? And Fred was like, you guys don't know? They like fly between buildings. And that's all he said about it. So
okay.
I don't
flying
know.
It is. Yeah.
Yes. It's something
Thanks,
between
Fred.
buildings. Yeah. Real helpful, Fred. Clearly he's like, he'd be the one at like the magic show where they're like, how does he do it? And he's like, there's someone else in the box. And you're like, thanks, Fred. Come on, man. Yeah, exactly. So there's a picture of the acrobat there and the like stage name. And it is the one, the only, the unmistakable Helga the Great. So clearly, the past life. And after these two, the dirt on the shoe and then this Helga the Great clipping that was recently being burnt, the clues just like keep coming. And clues that will put Dr. Jekyll's own theory to the test. Who's just again like reading in the parlor, like letting the kids do all the work.
I don't turn into my evil alternate half
and like murder these children at any point.
And Helga and steal more valuable jewelry.
Exactly. So we cut back
to my book.
Yeah, and next page. So cut back to Shaggy and Scooby, who somehow are now on the run from the Ghost of Hyde, who suddenly appeared.
Up in are they still up in the attic?
In the attic through like a hidden door. So again, cool other features of this house. It has a huge attic, so much storage space. It has hidden doors in the attic. Like if you need to come and go quickly from it, great. So again, they are on the run. Of course, they somehow kind of slip away from the Ghost of Hyde, but in the process, they run downstairs. Who do they run into? Velma, who's always getting trampled by one of them. And they slide down in this like giant laundry chute. Again, great perk of a house. Full laundry room. You have a laundry chute that I knew someone growing up who had one. And it always was so cool because you just like walk out of your bedroom and just throw it down there and went straight to the laundry room.
We had one. It was great. Or I guess my mom still has one.
Oh.
Still the same house. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Wait, where is it? Upstairs.
It's like right when you come up our upstairs, there's like you go straight down the hall into the loft and my mom's room is there. It's like right on that little side wall right there.
Got it.
It's like right outside.
All right, great. Well, now everyone knows the layout of your mom's house.
We got into some trouble dropping some things. I know. I was like, I'm not going to get too specific on where this is.
And her address is.
Let me actually just pull up the house blueprints from the county auditor website and share my screen so you guys can really get a feel. But we definitely got in trouble putting some stuff down that laundry chute that we should not have when we were younger. I won't get into that because some people might call certain authorities on me.
Yep, including your mother herself.
Yes.
The one she didn't know about. So, that's like one, like putting a laundry chute in a house that has children, of course it's bound to like get ruined somehow.
Things are going to get dropped down there.
It's so fun. Did you guys ever put your founder down it, your cat? Oh no.
I didn't want to say it. I was like, if I say it, Peter's going to be calling. I'm going to get in trouble. Founder lived a very long, healthy life. Many, many years after we ever dropped her down our laundry chute. So So, yes, while she
Cool.
may have made her way down the laundry chute, it never once injured her.
Yeah, I mean,
We love that cat with our entire heart, and
yes,
she was
she
fine.
lived a very
She
long,
did-
beautiful, spoiled life. I
She
will
did,
say.
very spoiled. She
Yes.
did not appreciate what she had, let me tell you.
I mean, she came
including
from
those trips down the laundry chute.
Right, this is like magic for her. She probably loved them. Yeah. All right. Anyways, we'll move on from Founder. I'm sorry for calling you out like that. I just
okay.
I took a second to think about it.
I kind of knew. I was like, dang it, if I say one more word, she's gonna know I've put my cat down that laundry chute.
Yeah.
It's like maybe if I stop right here, she won't ask. You asked.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I put it together real quick.
Go ahead. Give me a call if you want. We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Anyways, so this laundry chute though was more than cat size. It was Great Dane size because Scooby, Shaggy, and Velma, all just tumbled down it. So like it's basically a slide at this point. But they land in the laundry room and they Shaggy slams into the other wall. But they find the next clue there because ironing board comes out from the wall. And it has a couple of things on it, which are all now clues. So they find a pair of actually freshly muddy shoes. They find a feather duster. Yes, not dirt shoes, mud shoes. They find a feather duster and they find a set of clothes. So our investigators all rejoin each other and they are on the scent at this point, somewhat literally because they've got Scooby-Doo with them. And they chase down the rest of these clues. Basically, they're like, we found a feather. This is sketchy as hell. Who else have we seen recently with a feather duster? So they're like, let's just go poke around. Helga's room.
Sorry, can I? Real quick, I want to interrupt. You say that they also found an outfit, a spare outfit. What kind?
It's arbitrarily just the green coat that has been seen by Swamp Man. It wasn't.
Okay.
They didn't really pick it up.
I didn't know if it was a maid outfit to go with the feather duster or just okay.
Nope. It was just here's a green
coat. It was likely the culprit's outfit.
Yes, I think that's what they put together. So they just bang into Helga's room and they turn it inside out. But under her mattress, they find a bottle of phosphorus paint, which is glow in the dark paint. And a bottle that's simply labeled knockout pills, but I think that just means roofies.
In a PG sense.
Yes, it's just knockout pills.
Knockout pills. They just put you to sleep.
Exactly. And the gang is so hot on this trail right now that even Shaggy finds a tangible clue, not just a hunch that Velma puts together. While they were searching,
this house is just teeming with clues then, because if Shaggy is even finding one, then it's whoever the culprit is did not clean up their tracks whatsoever.
Exactly.
Anyway,
so Shaggy's out in the hall, everyone else is searching the room. And here's why though I think Shaggy actually found a clue more than anything else is that there was a bowl of fruit just in the hallway, and so he was eating. So it's not he was helping at all. Still, so as he announces, he's pokes his head and he's like, "Hey guys, I found something. I found a pretty weird clue." The Ghost of Hyde pops out and takes Shaggy, and again, perks of this house disappears because secret doors everywhere in this place. More trap doors, secret doors. We see at one point in various chase scenes, one of those giant door that behind it is a smaller door and a smaller door and a smaller door and a smaller door. Yeah, this house.
How big is this house?
On the outside,
it's you have to interdimensionally travel or something. It's the doors open, actually portals, and you're just going in different dimensions throughout the same house.
But here's the thing is that on the outside, it doesn't look huge. But it's it's open concept, so it feels really big, I think. So again,
high ceilings.
Exactly. A lot of natural light, a lot of natural fog light because it's the swamps. So here's also where it gets a little dark again because we rediscover Shaggy. And he's fully strapped down onto a metal surgical table. Fully straps, unable to move. The Ghost of Hyde is next to him, cackling and fucking with chemistry sets because he's about to experiment on Shaggy. So again, like towing that line between like this is gonna get into some real dark shit and like it's a children's show, it's okay.
How cute.
Yeah,
Shaggy's gonna have a scalpel in his eye.
Classic. Oh, his eyes are about to be plucked out. Oh, you Ghost of Hyde.
You kids, crazy kids.
Yep, exactly. But luckily, like a good boy, Scooby is having like a full freak out and is like, I gotta find Shaggy. And so naturally he does. A chase scene ensues. You know, they go through the like swamp / marsh. There's some alligators, shenanigans. When they finally are able to get away from the ghost, because like the ghost had no interest in entering the swamp situation, Shaggy's able to reveal his discovery because they're like, why did the ghost take you? Like, what's going on? And Shaggy's like, probably because of this. And he pulls out from his pocket this set of 4 suction cups, which is the final clue. And we'll explain
That's the clue that Shaggy came across when he was eating the fruit. Okay.
Yep.
Yes, because he got cut off before he exposed what he found. Okay. Yep. Interesting. Suction cups.
So here's the problem, though. So, like, they have all these clues, and how do they, like, definitively prove? Again, like, this evidence, they've contaminated all of it. Their fingerprints are now on, like, the roofie bottle, like...
As per usual.
Yeah, and, like...
Fred's gonna get caught up in some shit from that. Fred, your handprints are on this bottle of roofies.
That's not good. Put everyone's handprints on that, Fred. That's not great. So, yeah, like, how do they prove the theory here? That, of course, like, Fred and Velma, as soon as they see the suction cups, they're like, we know it. We've got it. Type of thing.
As per usual.
Yeah. So like, how do they prove that theory? Like, how do you like put all this together in a sense that's like provable to the law? And like, what actually has been done with the ruby that Dr. Jekyll handed out earlier? Like, did anybody confiscate it? Because I don't think they did. I think they were just like, you hold on to that, even though like you think you're this ghost type of thing. So as per usual, a plan gets hatched that requires teamwork, cunning, a bit of theater with the costumes. And once
the costumes.
Lots of quick costume changes here. And so once, of course, Hyde shows up again, wanting to chase them out, especially knowing that they found like these suction cups now. And so trying to chase him out. And I do just have to say what the chase scene ensued and like how they caught him, because like sort of we gloss over it. Fred, Velma, and Daphne all also dressed up as the Ghost of Hyde, because there were apparently also obviously like the green paint, but like apparently there were also like 3 other wigs and like 3 full outfits for these 3 like very differently sized humans. All matching. Like Velma, it like looks like a child in hers versus like the actual Hyde is like very big and like tall. So I just wanted to, I know it's the magic of theater, but
hey, you know, sometimes you just have to order a lot of different, you got to order the different sizes.
You don't know
when you're doing casting calls. Yeah, you don't know necessarily who's going to get the role. So
that's so
you got to be accommodating for all of the people who are trying out.
You know,
in this case,
that's a good point. It could have been a child, apparently.
And then once you don't need them, just stuff them in a trunk in an attic and have a random house in the middle of a swamp.
Yep, because you know no one's going to find it because no one's freaking cleaning it. Like, you know your boss isn't going up there, so why do you need to bother cleaning it and all that? Yeah, so
just hide it up there.
Yeah, so the Ghost of Hyde like freaks out. Like I think he thinks that he's like lost his mind because he's like seeing double. And he runs out into what the gang hoped he would run out. The trapdoor. So
comes full circle.
That good old trapdoor, baby. Yeah, if you own this house, you got to watch out for the booby traps yourself. Like if you're living there,
everywhere.
You should know. Yes, exactly. So yeah, this swamp man, falls into their trap that they have set there, and they are ready to rip the mask off. So as per usual. Let's review. So we've got clues. We've got the bloodline. Yes.
I was going to say we've only met like 2 people. So
that's
the suspects are very limited in this one. Although they do sometimes like come out of left field and like unmask someone who
you didn't
the audience
yet.
Has not been introduced to.
Yes. Or like you've met for 3 seconds. Like is it like the malt shop guy, owner who delivered them their malts and was like, "How was the magic show,
roofied
kids?"
their malts actually to get them off of the trail. Anyway.
Exactly. Was it the cop who was just I guess he was chasing the Ghost of Hyde, but was he?
I was wondering at first. I was like, I guess maybe the cop could be a suspect. He was there. He had a line, so he's involved in all of this.
Could have been there. Yeah, let's not overlook him. Yes. But we'll talk about what the clues actually are. So we've got the bloodline of a crazy scientist who morphed into a crazy murderer. Mud/dirt on a pair of shoes. Okay. Well, I guess we have 2 pairs of shoes, a dirt pair of shoes and a mud pair of shoes. With the feather duster and a fit. An old burnt article and other burnt papers that they weren't able to look into. It kind of all just was ash at that point. Glow in the dark paint and roofies and suction cups. Or knockout pills. Sorry.
Knockout. I was gonna say we're calling them roofies. Yeah. Warner Brothers would prefer that we call them knockout pills, probably.
Yeah, most likely. So as they get ready to rip the mask off, Fred and Velma are prepping the high five to be we're so fucking right. We're the smartest people in the world, because I've also realized that it's always those two who know who it is, and they're always ready to be duh. Type of thing. So now I'm keying in on them doing that. So they rip off the mask. Do we want to guess who of our 4 characters?
True.
It is.
Shoot. All right. I do want to guess.
Okay.
I'm really pulling for the malt shop guy, but I'm going to guess all logic tells me that it's the lovable 7-foot-tall Helga.
They're going to say the lovable policeman.
No comment.
Yeah.
But maybe this one was lovable. Dime a dozen.
I mean, he seemed like he was just there to have donuts, and he clearly didn't give that good of a chase.
He was preoccupied. He's I didn't actually see a crime. So
he was just scaling a building.
I guess he did see the police officer did see Hyde holding the actual necklace, right?
Yes.
Okay. So allegedly, or you could assume there was a crime. So maybe he was a little bit more invested. But
you know what? I'm actually gonna pull back from even assuming he's a real cop. He could have just been a stripper in cop's clothing, because he saw a crime happen, somewhat kind of gave chase, but didn't call for backup. We don't hear or ever see that there are cop cars swarming in Coolsville, because he was I saw him. He's on the run. Let's track him down. I think the cop was just all right, well,
whatever.
Yeah,
he was actually one of the village people just grabbing a bite in between performances.
Shows. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He also went to the malt shop. He was I'm kind of hungry. Or something. So question, or he's a corrupt cop and was yeah, baby.
He's I'm actually going to get paid part of that fee from that jewelry if I just kind of push this under the rug.
It could have happened. Okay, back to
but it probably didn't, did it?
Yeah, no, he just gave up, I think.
Okay.
Anyways, that's all conjecture. So Fred and Velma are gearing up those high fives because they're it's obviously fucking Helga, and then the mask comes off. It's Dr. Jekyll underneath the mask, baby.
Course.
Classic. Yep. So once the authorities, namely the sheriff, who's both wearing a weird cowboy hat and who handcuffs himself to Dr. Jekyll.
He is new. It was his first day on the job. This was his first real big arrest. He still was trying to figure out how to use it.
He just has each in one wrist. Dr. Jekyll could just punch him at any point.
Exactly. He just punches him or runs away. I imagine he's a pretty big guy because the monster is big.
Yeah.
So it's he just drags the sheriff along with him.
He could have he was next to all the lab equipment. I'm sure he's got scalpels and shit, or he could have broken a test tube or thrown an acidic substance on the
just
sheriff.
Break glass over the sheriff's head.
He's wheeling and dealing with the one arm. He could have overtaken the kids probably. But I guess this is a reflection on why Mystery Inc. exists, is that clearly their like law enforcement is like a guy who doesn't give chase or call for backup about
and
a
doesn't
literal
know
crime.
how to use handcuffs.
Yeah, and then the sheriff who doesn't know how to use handcuffs. And yeah, like you briefly said before you realized the handcuff situation, where are they? Cowboy hat in the swamps, like
I know.
unclear.
Okay, are they in Texas or are they in Mississippi? I don't. I mean, maybe people in Mississippi wear cowboy hats.
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know. If you're from Mississippi, leave a comment.
Let us know. Yeah.
You guys were. I did not think anyone besides Southwesterners did that.
Yeah.
So hey,
what's the deal?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so Dr. Jekyll, only one handcuffed, lays out what the situation was. So Dr. Jekyll, as we mentioned, was out here experimenting in the swamp because essentially his career was falling apart and failing. And then even out here, the last couple years, his experiments were also failing. This like goal to create this like miracle medicine and vitamin wasn't working. He wasn't living up to any part of this bloodline and this lineage of like successful experimental scientists. And like, even the mad scientists in his bloodline were like successful mad scientists because they like lost control of their experiments and it was like crazy cool and stuff. Mm-hmm. So like most, rock bottom people sometimes do. No, not really, actually. Just this one. He turned to crime. Like, just this guy. Because he, like, needed the thrills or just needed to pay the bills or something like that.
Thrills and bills, babe.
Mm-hmm. Because I did think about it, though. I was like, yeah, why would he... What does crime... Like, how does crime serve him? Doesn't make his experiments better or anything like that. And clearly he's, like, not going through the FDA to, like, sell his medicine. But I was thinking about it and I was like, you know what? I bet he bought this old ass house that like is like, it's like creaky. It's like, honestly, I know I've been selling it to you. It's a fixer upper. It's like not maintained. It's like got a lot of holes, like broken
This is now
windows.
the fine print, fine print of the sales contract, the land contract. Like it's open. It's got an open concept and high ceilings, but there's also a lot of creaky floorboards.
Yeah, it's got a lot of natural light because there's a lot of holes in the walls. And like it's in a swamp, which like I bet means like the cooling bills for like a house that big and that many trap doors and like secret halls is probably astronomical and like through the roof and like the humidity.
Need a lot of dehumidifiers.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of like air rotted wood type of thing. So I think he was just trying to fix this house up in the end. Like he needed that cash. But as per usual, he did not get he didn't expect to get chased by the kids all the way to the swamp. And so he kind of had to do some like pretty quick thinking as he was like on the run from them.
Now, but hold on. But he took their car to the swamp. So I get he didn't expect them to get out of the car and chase him the extra like 10 feet to the shack.
I think two different things. One, Bert, he's a failing scientist. You think he thought through all of this?
No, and he's like drugged up on stuff too.
Yeah.
So he's,
And two, I guess I would be like, I don't expect like a bunch of children to be dumb enough to chase me, a criminal.
That's like, true. Yeah. It's one thing to hitch a ride somewhere, but for them to then get out of the car. Yeah. And
you'd be like,
you're right.
Okay, I spooked him. They're going to get back in the car and to leave as soon as possible because they're terrified. But no, they were like, let's do this. And he was like,
that's fair.
Fuck. Like I could be murdering you kids. Like, why are you chasing me still?
Yeah. Where are your parents?
Like I'm actually going to stop and talk to your parents. Let's go back to Coolsville. We need to have a
conversation.
So his quick thinking, he decided to lean on his like great grandfather's lineage and like play up the curse. But use that as kind of like get out of jail free, like, oh, it could be me, but let's lay out some red herrings, which, a classic Scooby-Doo phrase.
Can't wait till we talk about Putnam and Scooby-Doo. But anyway.
Yes. Which also, it's not on HBO Max. It's only on Boomerang.
Well, then
we got to talk about this afterwards.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Off screen.
Cool.
Yeah. We'll make that work.
Yeah. I looked. So he laid out what he thought. And actually it was like a pretty clever plan actually to like lay out this evidence to pin things on Helga. So he like slipped like those roofies and
call them what they are.
call them
Walks like a duck, talks like a duck. Yeah,
roofies like a duck. So yeah, he slipped all of that in like the paint under Helga's mattress. He like quick changed his shoes and like put his dirty ones, like the actual muddy ones, in the laundry room, which only she goes. He slipped on his other shoes with the actual dirt on them, thinking that like, again, he could like maybe be like, oh, is it me? Oh God, they're dry. What do you, oh no. Which also, again, questions Helga's like job, because there was still dry mud on the other pair of shoes. So she clearly didn't fucking clean those either. Yeah. Anyways, she didn't do it, so it's fine. So he like tried to frame Helga, but the biggest thing that in retrospect to the gang was like, it wasn't Helga, because she wouldn't have needed the suction cups because she was an acrobat.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, no one can scale a building without something. You can be the most athletic.
The Great could.
She could. She's practically Spider-Man.
Yes.
Spider-Woman.
Exactly. The Swedish Spider-Woman. Thank you very much.
Actually, that has a good ring to it. Sorry.
Oh,
the Swedish Spider-Woman.
All right. One day we'll come out with a comic book and that'll be it. That was my contribution. Yeah, exactly. And so in retrospect, they were like, oh, duh, we should have known. Like, she wouldn't have needed that, but Dr. Jekyll did, because how else would he scale the building? So yeah, it is, I will say, pretty funny. Like, all of this gets uncovered with Helga standing right there, and like this bitch like scolds him like a child and is like, mother, like, I'm disappointed in you voice, which I just really appreciate. And
that'll teach him, not his hard time in prison.
You know what? I did also
scolding of Helga.
I did also think about that like, he's gonna get a few years at most. Like, he's not gonna get that much time. Yeah, like
really,
like a couple like not that it was a petty theft, like a couple jewelry thefts and like breaking and entering. Like, yeah, he's not getting a life sentence. Like,
and he doesn't have any prior charges. Like,
and
even
there's no violence.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
you're right.
So yeah,
he's probably an older white male. So
yes, he's gonna and like
safe.
Could have some like backup cash, and like, I don't know, he could pay his bail really quickly too, and like, yeah, there's a lot of things here.
Or he could just roofie all of the sheriff's department and then just
get away,
sneak out of there and be like, this never happened.
Another
do like
trap door,
smoke or something.
He's gonna trap door the entire police department and then run. Yeah. So I did think, though, I was like, you know what, like, not only he's not going to get a very harsh sentence, but like, I don't know why, for some reason I was like thinking about his time in prison, but I was like, you know what, he's probably going to like thrive, because I bet he's going to do some like experimental, like prison like toilet water like concoctions and like get shit from the commissary and like make a bunch of drugs in there, and like
he'll be like the chef /
he's
also
gonna
the main connect.
Yes, connect for like new drugs. Like, he's gonna like make PCP in there or some shit. And then he also
toilet PCP
has an entire like population of guinea pigs that he's gonna use. Like, he's gonna give all of those prisoners. So I think he's gonna like, I mean, he was okay to test on himself, but he was gonna do some tests on Shaggy. Like, he's definitely gonna become like a kingpin in prison, and then like maybe get more sentences because of like what other like illegal shit he's gonna end up doing in prison. So.
And he could probably strike a good deal with the for-profit prison industry here too, where it's like, hey, let me use them as guinea pigs. If they die, then we can just keep rotating through new prisoners, bringing them in and whatnot. God,
and if
is so evil to think
I
about,
make like a genius discovery, like, guess what? I did it on your property. Like, we can be in business
you
together.
Get the patents for that. Just
exactly.
Saying.
So yeah, I think this. There's again a lot of towing of darkness in this episode, including this epilogue, I believe, to Dr. Jekyll. So the end. That's it.
They're very good. Beautiful. That, I think that actually might be one of the more classic episodes of Scooby-Doo, mostly because of the Jekyll and Hyde thing with the, like, everybody knows the classic story and all of that. And I've got to say, because of that, I made an assumption about how the episode ended that unfortunately made an ass out of you and me, because I was like, oh, surely they won't just like copy the actual story of Jekyll and Hyde, where it is in fact the doctor who is the evil monster as well. But no, they were like, oh no, fuck that. We're going to use the exact story, guys.
These kids aren't going to read.
They don't know the book. They maybe know the characters, but they don't know that it's the same person, except we do.
Well, funny enough, as I was watching it, I also thought it was Helga, and I was like doing a little bit of like eye rolling of like, wow, like you guys made it way too obvious. Like, come on, like the paint in her room, like, come on, producers. And then I was like, oh no, I fell right into that trap.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing I assumed, another way I felt like an ass, because I was like, oh, these clues clearly are pointing to Helga. I assume that the writers are trying to set up kind of an easy investigation for us. They got clever with this one.
Yeah.
They did, not gonna lie. Yeah, they got clever by not being clever.
Yeah. They got clever by plagiarizing.
They got clever by following the plot. Like they used the source material, they stuck with it, and somehow we still went off the trail.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what the producers, they all sat in the writing room and they were like, why would we change it? It's almost been 100 years.
Exactly.
Let's take it. Let's steal it.
The copyright protection for Jekyll and Hyde's over because of how old it is. I'm pretty sure. So, and actually, it wasn't even. You said it wasn't written by an American. It's Scottish, right? So there's probably some other different set of copyright law anyway because it's European. So, but anyway,
fancy.
Yeah, that's I made some assumptions there. They threw me for a loop. I want to look up who the writers for that episode were because I want to commend them. I don't know if they're still alive, but good job.
Well, you know what? Yeah, we'll look that up, and in our like little credits, we'll I guess if you're only watching the vlog, you'll see it. But we'll put in the podcast, we'll write we'll give them credit in our like notes for the podcast.
For sure.
It will be out there.
We should do that going forward too. Just so if people want to go back and watch the episode, which you totally should do, by the way, if you have Boomerang or HBO Max, or if you just have all these episodes somewhere, after you listen to us tell them, you should totally go back and watch them to compare because it makes you watch these shows a lot differently and just enjoy it that much more when you have this kind of narrative form behind them.
Yeah, I have to say I went back and watched the episode you did like last week for like getting the images and stuff for the video side of things. And it was like so much funnier to be watching it like with your voice also in my head. And I'm glad I'm glad we don't know before we record what episodes we're doing. So we can't like, I'll watch before and see what Bird's going to talk about. I'm like, I have no idea. I'll watch it later type of thing.
We should keep doing that too, because sure. I kind of thought about it when we behind the scenes little look here, but we set up a spreadsheet where we just track the episodes that each of us are kind of talking through. And I glanced at it to see what Grace put up there and was like, oh, nice. I could go check this episode out so I have an understanding before she tells me the story. But that would defeat the purpose. Yeah. It's a lot more fun when we do it this way. Yeah, so and then we're going to keep it that way where we don't watch them before we talk about them so that we can be as excited and like we're, listening with fresh ears or watching with fresh eyes.
Yes, exactly. Well, next week will be a bird story, a story by Alexis. So tune in.
Come back and listen.
Then again, give us a follow on Satmorn Mist on Instagram and Twitter. And
if you have any questions or want to see us talk about anything in particular, you can send us an email at SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com.
Yes, thank you. And between now and next week, who should they tell this podcast? Who should they tell this podcast about? What am I trying to say?
Who should you tell about this podcast?
Yes. Why does it sound so weird?
With whom should
you discuss
this podcast?
Yes.
This week, when you go to the grocery store, tell the clerk as you're checking out. Tell her, sorry, that's bad. I shouldn't assume. Tell them to watch this podcast.
Okay.
Or listen to this podcast and watch the YouTube videos.
Watch the podcast.
Watch the podcast, listen to the videos.
Yes, perfect. You know what? While you're at the grocery store, maybe tell like the cheesemonger, whoever, like if your grocery store has like a cheese counter, like treat yourself to some nice cheese and let them know, because then they can also tell the clerk and then they can bond and become friends when they both listen to the podcast.
God.
Making friendships here,
Yeah,
everyone.
making friendships with people we don't even know.
Wow.
I love it. I love bringing the world together through Scooby-Doo, through animation, through true crime, maybe not through true crime, through fictionalized true crime.
Yeah.
I don't think real crime brings the world together, but maybe there's an argument there.
Yeah. Bonus content.
What authoritarian figure you're listening to. Anyways.
Right. Well, we'll see y'all next week. Thanks for listening and watching.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay, bye.
Farewell. Thanks for tuning in to Saturday Morning Mysteries.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, review, leave us a like, and drop a comment. We post episodes every Saturday and bonus tune tangents whenever we feel like it. So please subscribe so you don't miss the shenanigans.
And if you want to follow us on YouTube, click the bell under the YouTube subscribe button to receive notifications when new videos are posted.
And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, we have no idea what you're listening to us on, so just hit the big subscribe button on whatever app you're using. We believe in you.
Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at SatmornMist, all the abreves, and let us know if you have any episode or show requests by emailing SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com.
Thanks to Jenna Kendall for the logo design and to Ava Sakiki for the music used during this week's episode.
See y'all groovy kids next week on Saturday Morning Mysteries.